These are the 3.3 notes for pre-calc. If you have not watched the video about using your calculator, please watch that first. It explains where all the buttons are on your calculator and how to use them, as well as going through that calculator reference sheet. So assuming you've already done that, go ahead and open up your calculator app on your Chromebook. And let's take a look at example number 1. Students were chosen at random to report their absences in days from pre-calc class and their current grade as a percent in the class. The data is represented in the table. Using a graphing calculator, enter the data into the table. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to enter this data into the table by hitting the Stat button. So remember, the Stat button is right up here. Stat. We're going to hit that button. You want to make sure you are on Edit, and the very first thing here is Edit, number 1. So that's exactly where we need to be, so we'll hit Enter. You'll see there is an L1 as well as an L2, continued all the way on. All we're going to focus on is the L1 and L2. The L1 is going to represent our absences, so we're going to type all of these numbers into L1. 3, Enter. 15, Enter. All the way down the list, checking each one to make sure you have it correct as you type it in. Okay. To move over to L2, you'll simply hit this right arrow button to scroll over. And then you'll enter all the grades into L2. 85, Enter. 61, Enter. 73, Enter, all the way down. Notice how easy it is to make a mistake like that. 991, that's not what I want, just 91. So watch carefully as you type things in. All right, when you're done, you should have the same number on each list. If you have an extra one on one of the lists, you missed something. Once that's entered into the calculator, you can hit Second, Quit to exit. Second, Quit. All that information is still stored in your calculator. It's not like it erased. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a scatter plot from those points. So step number 1 says create and view the scatter plot and then describe the relationship. So looking at our calculator reference sheet, it says we need to hit second and y equals. Second and y equals. Pulls up this screen. We need to make sure that our plot 1 is turned on. So hit Enter. And you can see you can toggle back and forth between the on and the off. So scroll over. And then hit Enter after it's highlighted. And you should see it blinking on. And then to get out of that screen, you hit Second, Quit. Now we actually want to view it. So that first part is actually turning on the scatter plot, and now we actually have to view it. So we'll hit Zoom. And then we want to scroll all the way down to 9. You can either use your down button to get there, or you can just hit the 9 button. I'll just go ahead and hit 9 this time. And you can see our scatter plot. Each of these is representing one of the absences and their score. And so when it asks us to create the scatter plot and then describe it, we are going to say that this scatter plot is linear. And you can see it's also negative. It's tending downward. All right. Everything from step number 2 on is going to require us to get to that same exact screen. So we'll exit from here. Again, Second, Quit. And then we're going to want to go into our slope equation and correlation. To do that, you're going to hit Second and 0 for catalog. Second, catalog. We're going to scroll down all the way until we find diagnostic on. All right, you'll see here there's an off and an on for diagnostic. You want to be focused on the on. And hit enter, and enter one more time. So hit that enter button twice. And you should see it say done. All right, once you do that, you can clear that off your screen, or again, hit second quit. And then we're going to make this actually do the work. Hit stat right here. You want to scroll over to calc. So use your over button to calc. And we're going to go all the way down to 4. So you can just hit 4. This screen will pop up. You want to scroll all the way down to calculate. And then, all right, so when you pull this up, you notice that your A value, which is your slope, is negative 2.367. When we interpret that slope, it means they want us to ask a question, write a sentence. So we would say, for each day absent, the grade decreases by 2.367%. Every day that you miss class, your grade drops about 2.367%. All right, in order to find, there we go, keep losing stuff. All right, in order to find the equation, you're going to do the A and the B together. So notice right here how it says y equals ax plus b. A is our slope, b is going to be our y-intercept. So we'll write our equation as y equals our A value, negative 2.367x, plus whatever our B value is, 95.656. And there's our equation. On that same screen, you'll see an r squared and an r. We want to focus on the r value, not the r squared value. So I'm just going to write down what the r is, negative 0.956. Negative 0.956 is my R value. When we interpret the R value, we are going to use our little chart on our calculator reference sheet. This one right here. And 0.956, whether it's a positive or a negative really doesn't matter. But the 956 would fall into this category right here. You want to think about these as percentages. So this top row is from 0 to 50%, and then 50 to 75%, almost like you would figure out a grade, 75 to 90, and 90 to 100. So 95%, what we have, falls into this very strong category. So we'll say that our R value is very strong. And we'll just write negative one more time so people don't forget that that was a negative. Very strong negative. Step number 7, use the regression line to predict the grade of a person that has 10 absences. All right, so we are going to plug in a 10 into our equation. Negative 2.367 times the 10 plus 95.656. It's going to get us 71.986. All of my other numbers up here in my chart were all whole numbers, the grades. So I'm just going to round mine to the nearest whole number. Let's call that 72%. Last question, is this interpolation or extrapolation? So interpolation would be if you had something inside that data. So we're going to take a look at the 10, which is our days. We're going to scroll up and notice that our absences go from anywhere from 2 to 24. So 10 would be within that range of 2 to 24. Again, inside that range would mean interpolation. Example number 2. In order to clear your calculator from all the data that we had before, we'll just go ahead and close it. And then when you open the app back up, either from hitting that button on the side, or if you have a touch screen, you can scroll up and you can see all your apps there. Bring it back up and it'll say RAM cleared. That means the calculator has been cleared of all of its storage and memory. And we'll just go through that entire process again. All right, this problem is about the following data represents the height in inches. So notice it's in inches, not in feet, and the weight in pounds of 12 randomly selected people at Circle Center Mall downtown in Indianapolis, Indiana. So we'll start by entering our data. To do that, you'll hit Stat, Edit, which is this first one, Enter. L1 is going to be our height, and L2 will be our weight. So very carefully type these in. Each time you enter a number, double check it before you hit enter to put it in the list. If you make a mistake, you can always see how I made that 41. Let's say I hit enter and then realize I had done it. Notice the 41. I can scroll up and then just hit enter and scroll here and then re-enter it. And just type it in as 71 instead. You can always edit it if you need to. 74, 63, and 66. And then just take a quick look at it, make sure your numbers are correct. And if not, you can always scroll back up to the one that you're missing and fix it. All right, once you have all the heights in, you're going to scroll over to L2 using your arrow button and type these in very carefully. There's two weights of 160 right next to each other, so make sure you get both of those. And then at the end, remember, you should always have the same amount of numbers in each list. So at the end, these should be kind of lined up as the last number. All right, you could scroll back through those, make sure you have the correct answers on each one entered. 50, 160. All right, looks like we got them. All right, so that's stored in our calculator, so we can exit that. So we're going to hit second, quit. And then we're going to get our scatter plot to show up. Hit zoom. And all the way down to number 9, zoom stat. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the 9 button. Oh, wait, one more thing. If that comes up, see, I'm making all these mistakes. I'm not doing it on purpose. But if this comes up, it means you forgot to turn on your plot. So you're going to hit second, y equals. Second, y equals. And see right there, our plot is off. We want to make sure we turn that on. I was supposed to do that first, but I just forgot. So hit enter. And then make sure you toggle over to on by hitting enter. And you'll see then your on is flashing. Then you can go back, second quit, and hit zoom 9 one more time. That looks better. All right, notice you've got kind of this outlier over here. But generally, these dots tend to be linear. Okay. And also you notice that they are going uphill, so this is going to be a linear positive. Linear positive. All the other information from this will be found on the same screen. So we'll go back and hit second quit. And then we'll type in the information to find the slope. So we'll turn our catalog on first. Second, catalog 0. Scroll all the way down using the down arrow until you get to diagnostic on. All we go. So you've got an off and an on. You want to make sure you choose the on. Hit enter. And enter one more time to actually make it say done. You want to make sure it says done. All right. You can clear that off the screen or you could just leave it. Next, you're going to hit Stat, Calc, so scroll over using the arrow button. And then you're going to go down to number 4, right here, linear regression. You can hit the 4 button or you can scroll down. I'll hit 4. Scroll all the way down until you get to the bottom where it says Calculate. And then we'll hit enter. All right, you have your A value, which is your slope, your B value, your y-intercept. We ignore r squared, and we focus all of our attention on r. All right, let's jot these down. What is the slope? We've got A equals 5.01, let's call that 8. And now we interpret the slope. So when I interpret the slope, it's going to be a sentence that relates the height to the weight. I'll do it like this. I'll say for each inch, for every inch, however you want to say it, increase in height, the weight increases by 5.018 pounds. Another correct sentence would be, for each inch taller a person gets, their weight goes up by 5.018 pounds. As long as you're relating the 1 inch of height to the 5 pounds, you're doing it correctly. All right, what is the equation of the regression line? Let's see if I can pull up this calculator without it taking my whole screen. Of course not. Flip this. All right, here we go. What is the equation of the regression line? We're going to use our A and our B to write this equation. Y equals 5.018, our slope, with the x next to it. And this time the B is a negative, so I'm going to write it as a minus 158.469, 469. So again, you were just using here the A and the B. All right, next it asks for the R value, not the R squared. So R equals 0.520. And then when we interpret that R value, we need to look at our chart. I'm going to scroll all the way back to our calculator reference sheet for a second. Right here. So when I'm looking at 0.520, think 52%. That would fall in this category right here, between the 50% and the 75%. So it's a little bit bigger than 50, so it wouldn't go between 0 and 50. It'd be right between the 50 and the 75%. So we're going to call that moderate. Scroll back down to our problem we're working on, and we'll say it has a moderate, and then we'll remind them one more time that it's positive. Moderate, positive correlation. Part 7, use a regression line, this one, to predict the weight of a person that is 5 feet tall. So this is not in feet, this is all in inches. So the first thing we'll need to do is multiply that by 12 to get our inches, 60 inches tall. And then we'll simply plug in the 60 into our equation. Second, quit on the calculator, and we'll type that in very carefully. $142.611. Since all of my weights up here are as whole numbers, I'll go ahead and leave that as a whole number, 143. We'll just round up a little. Pounds. All right. And then is that interpolation or extrapolation? Well, let's investigate the 60. when we look up at our graph, I have a range all the way from the smallest number that I see looks like the 62. So it goes from 62 all the way until the largest number I see, which is 76. So 60, the thing I'm asked about, is not actually inside that data. It's extra. It's extrapolation. It's outside the data set. So we'll say it's extrapolation. Now, extrapolation doesn't necessarily mean that this answer is incorrect of 143. It just means you have to be careful and investigate it. All right, good work. If you have any questions on your calculator, please log on sometime to Google Meet and I'll help you out. Good work.